Good afternoon, fellow educators. I'll be discussing to you on what we should know as teacher on the science of reading, on how learners learn to read, and what are the strategies that are scientifically based to make our learners learn to read. The science of reading is not even a philosophy, it's not even an ideology, it's not even a political agenda. It is a product of research conducted by brain scientists and done in different languages all over the country to be able to better understand why our learners can't read or the reasons why our learners are not reading. And they were emphasizing that reading is not a natural process. According to brain science, learning to speak is a natural process for children, but learning to read is not. Reading needs to be taught explicitly. Children need to learn the different sounds of spoken language and be able to connect it to written letters and make meaning out of the print. According to Marianne, we human beings were never born to read. We invented reading and then had to teach it to every new generation. As we all know, our brain composed of the left and the right hemisphere. And the left hemisphere takes care of learning the language or language related concepts. And according to brain science, it has three processors. The first one is phonological processor from the word phono, which means sounds. So this is the part of the brain that process the sounds that our learners hear. Almost everyone is born with language area intact, according to brain science. The next processor is the orthographic processor. When we speak of orthographic, this refers to the symbols. Okay, it is again located in the left part of our brain that takes care of analyzing and learning visual symbols. Okay, then the last one is phonological assembly region. This connects what the learners see or in the orthographic processor and what the learners hear in the phonological processor. And according to brain science, no one is born with this neural system to connect both vision and speech. It must be built through instructional experiences. So there is a need for learners to be taught how to connect the sounds and the symbol together to be able to decode words. Therefore, science of reading tells us about how we learn to read, what goes wrong when students don't learn, and what kind of instruction is most likely to work best for most students. So the reasons why we learn to read, why we don't why we don't learn to read, and what are the best teaching learning instruction. Okay, so there is a theoretical model of reading. So if you can see, D stands for decoding, LC stands for language comprehension, and if you know how to decode and you understand the language, you have reading comprehension. In other words, okay, decoding refers to word pronunciation, letter recognition, connection of phonemes to letters, or the alphabetic principles, and word recognition. While language comprehension refers to word meaning, that our learners know the meaning of the words. It is part of their background knowledge, and they have listened to those words in the past or currently. And that is language comprehension. And if they know how to decode and they have the language comprehension, therefore they have understanding, they will be understanding the meaning of the text, which is reading comprehension. In other words, okay, so if you know how to decode, but if you don't understand the language, you will not have reading comprehension. And this is why in the early years, we introduce, we advocate for a language of the learners because it is where they learn best. Very simple word. You taught them how to decode the word cat, cat, cat. But if they don't know what is cat, because in their knowledge, in their background knowledge, they know it is pusa or kuting, they won't be able to understand the language or they will not have reading comprehension. In the same way, if they understand the language, but they have not gone to school, so you are not able to teach them how to decode, what is the sound of those letters, and how those symbols rather, and how those symbols should be blended to be able to form the words, still they will not have reading comprehension. What is needed is that the learner should be taught how to decode. They should be taught how to the sounds of the symbols that they've seen and be able to blend those symbols so that they'll be able to form words and that the words that they form is part of their oral vocabulary. They understand the language. That's the only time that they will have reading comprehension. Therefore, what we need to taught them are the essential components of early literacy, which is number one, phonemic awareness. Okay, phonemic awareness is part of phonological awareness, but this is the most important part of phonological awareness because this deals with the smallest unit of spoken language. Notice, like the sound of letter A is A, the sound of letter B is. So each of the letters, each of the sounds of every letters in the alphabet is phonemic awareness. And we have different phonemic awareness tasks. The second is vocabulary and oral language. This is understanding the meaning of the words that you speak, that you hear, that you read, and you write. Meaning to say, those words that they encounter is already part of their oral vocabulary. The third is phonics. This is the relationship between the sound and the symbols, or what we call the alphabetic principles. The sounds, which is known as phonemes, and the letters, which is grapheme. So this is the graphophoneme analysis. Okay? And the fourth one is oral reading fluency. Reading connected text accurately, fluently, and with meaning. That's the meaning of fluency. Fluency refers to the the speed, the meaning, and of course, prosody. And the last one is reading comprehension, gaining meaning from the text. What are the four major strategies, approaches that the science of reading is advocating based on the research that they have conducted on how the brain works when it comes to reading? The first one is explicit teaching. As we all know, this is an approach where the teachers first demonstrate or model. If you're teaching the sounds, you have to model the sounds correctly or appropriately. So that's modeling. I do. Then the second is we do. This is guided practice. We do it together. They follow you, they model, you model, then let them repeat after you. Or they'll do it by peer or in a small group. That's we do. Okay, like then you do is doing, letting the learners do independently. Example, you're teaching the sound of letter M. Children, this is letter M. The sound is or I'll use what I have. Children, this is letter C. The sound is again. The sound is okay. That's I do. We do. Okay. Listen and follow after me. This is letter C. The sound is everybody. Let's say it 5 times. Okay. So you're doing it by group. That's we do. Then I do or you do is asking the learners to produce the sounds independently. Okay? The next strategy is phonological awareness. As we said, phonological awareness is really talking about sounds, the rhythm and rhymes involving spoken words. Example, you say, the class is silent. The class is silent. How many words there are in the sentence, the class is silent? Let us count. The class is silent. How many words there are in the sentence, the class is silent? The class is silent. How many words? There are 4 words in the statement, the class is silent. Okay? So that is phonological awareness, the bigger part of the sound. But when we speak of phonemic awareness, it speaks of the smallest sounds. Okay? The letter sounds, the individual sounds of this letter. So phonological awareness is telling us that once you hear it, you will be able to speak it. So there is a need for us to model the sound so that the learners will be able to produce the sound correctly. In this method, in this approach, there is no symbol yet. Just asking the learners to produce the sound. And I tell you, in introducing the sound, you have to exaggerate. You say, children, this is letter C. The sound is as in cat. Okay? Cat. Or the easiest way for us to practice is Children, this is letter M. The sound is mm. The sound is as in mango, as in melon. You don't say. This is the common error of our teachers. They would always say, mango, melon. No, you don't teach the sound that way because our learners won't be able to relate it when you ask them, what is the first sound of the word mango? You have to exaggerate. Mango, mango. So that when you ask your learners what is the first sound of the word mango, they will be able to say it. And if you talk about the ending sound, what is the ending sound of the word ham? Ham. But they'll say ham, ham. They won't be able to identify. That's why you say, what is the ending sound or the last sound of the word ham? Ham. Okay, you exaggerate the sounds that you are teaching our learners, and that is phonological awareness, where phonemic awareness is part of it. Just being aware that we have the sounds and they are hearing the sounds because they will be using that later on when they go to phonics. Again, wala pa pong symbols, puro lang po. Wala pa pong print or symbols, puro lang po sound to know. The third one is systematic phonics. As I've said earlier, that phonics refers to studying, learning the sounds and the symbols together, forming the, okay, you are now decoding, you are now breaking the code of the letters by putting in the sounds, or you are doing alphabetic principles. The graphemes, which is the letter, and the phonemes, which refers to the sound. Okay? And what the science of reading tells us that we should teach using systematic phonics instruction. There should be system that you have to follow. Hindi po pwede kung ano-ano lang. Naisipan mo ngayon dahil ito ang gusto mong ituro, ito po ang ituturo mo ngayon. Hindi po pwede yan. Dahil dapat po may sistema po ang sistema. What is the system that we have to follow? We start with consonants and the short vowel sounds, especially in English. But in Filipino, we have the sequence of the letters. You know that from primer lesson 1 that we have to begin with the M because there's a logic in starting with M, followed by A, followed by S because there's a logic why we have to follow that. We have to be systematic in teaching phonics. Okay? Then, to be followed by digraphs and blends, then followed by long vowels and other vowel patterns like the oi, as in toy, okay? Then syllable patterns, and of course the affixes or the suffixes. Okay, why game became gaming, plays become playing. Okay, and of course the syllable patterns. And the last one is structured literacy. So when we teach phonics, it should be systematic. It should follow a system, a structure. And when we speak of structured literacy, this is telling us that each of the lesson that we are teaching should build from the first lesson to the next lesson. From phonics, from the sounds, from phonological awareness to phonics to the coding and ultimately spelling skills, which should be taught explicitly by modeling, by group practice, and independent practice. Build around a scope of sequence. It dictates the order in which each concept or skill is taught. You cannot go through, you cannot teach the short vowel, then the following day you go to long vowel sound, the following day you go back to the short vowel sounds, the following day you go to diphthongs. No, you have to follow the structure of teaching phonics. And in doing that, you also have to build each lessons from the previous lesson to the next lesson. Students never has to read or spell anything they have not been introduced. Our common error. Sometimes I'm surprised. Sa Pilipino ito. Nagsimula tayo sa letra letter M. The sound is The following day, you teach them letter A. The sound is A. So ano pa lang ang mabasa? You do not delay reading. They can already decode when they know letter M and letter A. By combining them together, blending them together, you can already form the syllable ma. Ma. They already have the syllable ma. So you can add a at the beginning, they'll say ma, ama. So each lesson builds upon itself. Yan ang sinasabi dyan. Then you have the ma and mama, mama. Our learners will already be able to read the word mama. Dalawang letra pa lang. Ang pinagtataka ko, what I'm surprised is that, why is it that you only thought the two letters, pero meron na silang ma, me, mi, mo, mu. Anong sinasabi ng mga brain scientists? Student never has to read or spell anything that they haven't been introduced yet. Huwag ipabasa sa bata ang salita na hindi pa natin na ituro. Even you can easily, I tell you, if you look at the primer lesson, isang linggo pa lang makabasa na ang bata ng story. But the story comprised of words that they can read because you taught them. Yun po ang pinakamahalaga. Do not use text and request our learners to read text with words that you have not taught them. It's a no-no, and that is part of the structured literacy. Okay, stories and text in structured literacy are always decodable. Okay, individual skills is taught in isolation from the most basic level to phonics to the most advanced spelling, rules, and morphological concepts. Okay, so our next slide talks about the differences between a structured literacy to typical literacy practices. Ito po yung palagi nating ginagawa, itong typical literacy practices. But let us understand, let us follow what the brain scientists are telling us. So when it comes to phonological awareness, look at that, read that, and compare. Okay, when it comes to phonics and spelling, vocabulary and oral language, text reading fluency, and reading comprehension. So these are the things under structured literacy that we have to follow when we teach reading. Okay? So let's forget about the typical, let us forget about the things that we usually do, and let us correct ourselves. Because the only way for us to make our learners read is to follow the scientific way of teaching reading by understanding how our brain works when it comes to reading. Okay, and I would like to end my sharing in this statement from Stanislas Dehaene. Let us read all together. It is simply not true that there are hundreds of ways to learn to read. When it comes to reading, all children have roughly the same brain that imposes the same constraint and the same learning sequence. Let us remember this. Let us put this into our hearts and practice this in our daily teaching and learning process inside the classroom, especially in this learning camp. Because if we will not change the way we teach, if we will not follow what the brain scientists and reading experts are telling us, and we expect a different results, it's crazy. It's craziness. We can only expect different results if we do it in different way and doing it the right way. With that, I would like to say thank you and good afternoon.